All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Canelo Alvarez is not the top pound for pound fighter in the world, according to Jaron Ennis's trainer and father, Derrick Ennis. And Caleb Plant also throws shade at the resume of Canelo Alvarez. This is not going to sit well with a lot of people, but these guys are professional fighters and trainers. They have an opinion, and they justify this opinion, and it's kind of hard to argue with. So let's talk about that in this video. All right, we back at it. In this video, we're going to ask the question and try to answer it. Is Canelo Alvarez the pound for pound best fighter in the world, or is he being overrated? There is an option, though, for both to be the case. And I think I might lean towards, hey, if it wasn't for the fact that he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, I might say both. I might say that absolutely, he's the best pound for pound fighter in the world if he hadn't tested positive. And yeah, he's being overrated. But let's talk about what the experts have to say about it. And the two experts that we're going to talk about are Derrick Ennis, Bozy is B-O-Z-Y. Please forgive me. It's Boots and Bozy, I do believe. But if I got the nickname wrong, please forgive me. Derrick Ennis is the trainer of Jaron Ennis, the best, I believe, the best prospect in boxing, and a guy that I don't think anybody but Errol Spence Jr. can beat at 147 pounds. He was asked about who he thought was the best pound for pound fighter in the world, and he gave his answer, or specifically was asked about Canelo and he gave his answer. And then the other expert is Caleb Plant, who is, I guess you could call the odds-on favorite to fight Canelo Alvarez next for an undisputed title at 168 pounds. Caleb Plant is the IBF champion. I think that is it, though. I think that's the WBO, the WBC, the WBA. Yep, I think that's it. Only one. The next one is undisputed against Caleb Plant. So what does Derrick Ennis have to say about it? He's pretty much says, look, man, what have you done for me lately? And no, I don't think that he's the best. I don't think that Canelo is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. He says that he believes Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford are the best pound for pound fighters in the world. Now, one part of the justification that he gave, and it's part of the, and I will use this part of the justification because it's the part that I point to often, is that if just look at the people that they've actually fought over the last 4 years. I mean, when guys are fighting twice a year, 6 fights is 3 full years, man. People have 10, 12 years career. That's a big chunk of your career to be fighting. And if you look at what people have done over their last 6 fights, and you compare Errol Spence Jr. to Terrence to Canelo, dude, it's like such a much higher level of competition that Errol Spence Jr. is fighting than Canelo Alvarez is fighting. And even though I don't speak very highly of the level of competition that Terrence Crawford has had at 147, it's still a higher level of competition than Canelo Alvarez has had. I mean, just look at the guy's record, right? You had Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders is a UK, slightly above domestic level UK fighter, and who had no punching power and no chance of winning that fight. Just forget it. He looked like garbage in the fight that he had before with the guy from, I think the guy was from Argentina, and all the guy was doing to Billy Joe Saunders was mirroring him, and he was winning the fight. Billy Joe Saunders caught him with a really good shot, knocked the journeyman out, and he was able to move on. But then, pretty much what is his big wins? And I know I don't do that a lot, but just come on, man. He's a slightly above domestic level fighter. Then you have the guy that he fought before that, which was Yildirim. I don't think we need to talk too much about Yildirim, okay? And other than to tell you to go Google him and go look him up, because he's a guy that got knocked completely sideways by Chris Eubank Jr., who's a guy Billy Joe Saunders beat. So and he was a sparring partner for Canelo Alvarez. So no, right? And then the guy before that, who was that, right? That's Callum Smith. Callum Smith is somebody else that is just pretty much was in the basically like it looked like a rerun of the World Boxing Super Series in the UK, right? That 168-pound World Boxing Super Series event that took place where what was the guy's name? George Groves. I think that's where Callum Smith beat George Groves, but George Groves had beaten Chris Eubank. Man, that's just domestic level stuff. But when you look at that and you say, okay, look at what Errol Spence Jr. has done. Errol Spence Jr. has fought guys, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Lamont Peterson, Kell Brook. I mean, the only guy, the worst guy on that was in there that I named is Kell Brook. And I think Kell Brook is a better fighter than pretty much everybody that I mentioned for Canelo Alvarez. So while Canelo Alvarez is dominating the guys that he's fighting pretty much one domestical UK level fighters, right? And that's pretty much what Caleb Plant was saying about him. Like, look, yeah, if you look at the guy that he's beaten, he had a slightly different angle on it. Caleb Plant had a slightly different angle on it. He says, yeah, look at the guys that he's fought recently and the guys that he's dominating, right? Those are UK domestic level fighters. But then look at what happened when Canelo Alvarez fought Floyd Mayweather Jr., when he fought Landy Lara, and when he fought Austin Trout, he fought Gennady Golovkin. He's like, Gennady Golovkin's a draw, right? One of those were a draw. You think many people think that Canelo Alvarez lost to Landy Lara, and he definitely lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr., and those guys are all smaller guys than him, right? So what is Canelo Alvarez going to do if he actually fights a smaller fighter, a smaller, quicker fighter? And I think you saw a little bit of that, just a little bit of that in Billy Joe Saunders and what limited success Billy Joe Saunders had against him, right? Which was what? Hitting him with a moving, sticking with a jab, a straight right, that. If you have somebody that really has a lot more power than Billy Joe Saunders, that is doing that, and and they can really land something on him. Come on, man. That can be a completely different occasion, man. A completely different fight. So, what Derrick Ennis is saying about him not being top guy pound for pound, I'm with him on that pretty much because of the performance enhancing drugs. If it wasn't for that and he had fought, and he had better fights, absolutely I would have Canelo Alvarez up there. The dude is a terrific fighter, and I think anybody that doubts the guy's actual skill set, I think that you're very, very misplaced. I think the thing that makes Canelo Alvarez vulnerable at this point in time is suspicions around his physical sturdiness and his ability really to move in the ring, man. There's a lot of wear and tear on Canelo. There's a lot of training camps on Canelo, a lot of fights on Canelo. I mean, I'm sure Canelo's over 50 fights now. It's just he's been a professional fighter since he's 16 years old, right? So he had a lot of experience earlier in his career. And that's another thing I'll say about Canelo. People keep saying that Canelo Alvarez is getting better. I don't see Canelo Alvarez getting better. I don't think Canelo Alvarez looks better than he looked when he was fighting Gennady Golovkin. To me, he looks like he's just got tailor-made matches for him. But regardless, the pound for pound list for everybody, that's really, really subjective. But with Caleb Plant, but the justification for the pound for pound ranking by Derrick Ennis and by Caleb Plant, I think, man, there's a lot of validity to it. And I think Canelo's a terrific fighter, but it's just what it is. That's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.